Well, hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Unshakable People podcast, where we shape minds and build leaders through conversations that literally change lives. I'm your host. My name is Katie Kaspari, and I'm so grateful that you find time to join me today. If you're new to my community, our community, this podcast is all about you. It's about personal growth. It's about resilience, and it empowers you to become the best version of yourself, whatever it means for you. Whether you're a student navigating its big questions, or maybe you're a professional seeking balance, or a parent juggling countless responsibilities, or maybe you are just someone yearning for more joy and purpose, well, you found your tribe, and I would like to take a second and celebrate you being here today. This is a perfect episode that you're listening to, and I certainly hope that you enjoy this one. Guess what? We are not just the voice in your ear. I have a video podcast. This is a video podcast available on my website at katiekaspari.com/podcast and also at my YouTube channel at Katie Kaspari. So if you'd like to see me in action, like gestures, smiles, and maybe a few spontaneous dance moves every now and then, well, make sure to head over there and join the visual conversation. So how are you guys doing today? I really hope that you're doing well, and I would like you to take a moment and just relax there for a minute. Just stop, pause, whatever you're doing, just make some space for yourself. Maybe you're sipping your morning coffee right now, or maybe you are taking a leisurely walk, or perhaps you're multitasking like the superhero you are. Well, wherever you are, I am thrilled that we're sharing this time together now. And I really want you to enjoy that, so please stay tuned. Today, we are going to be discussing something truly fascinating and at the same time something that resonates with many people nowadays. I've called this episode When Life Hits Rock Bottom, How to Turn Crises into Opportunities, not for a very good reason. I find that there are so many people nowadays who are struggling with finding themselves and finding their path, finding their way in the new kind of situation that they happen to be. What I mean is that we all know, and maybe we are like this as well, that it can be very challenging when life throws some change and transformation at you. It can be very, very challenging to rebuild that level of comfort, that level of security, that level of certainty that you used to have in that previous life, because obviously you've spent a very long time building that life. And when suddenly, for any reason, you lose any pieces of it, and whatever it is, really, it's challenging, it's tough, and I get it. In this episode, we will be talking about all the important stuff. I've tried to put together all the scientific and psychological knowledge that I had on this topic, and we will be discussing the importance of preserving your essential freedoms, listening to your true desires, finding your flow, and surrounding yourself with the right people. I will share some inspiring stories with you from my practice and from my personal life, including the one about one remarkable person in my life who turned immense challenges into phenomenal success. And he is the true living example that this is possible. So stay tuned. It will be interesting. You know, there is a saying that before a big takeoff, fate will often take you through the depths to test you. And I remember reading about so many entrepreneurs who had to sell their last possessions just to survive before they actually made it big. We all know about them. Steve Jobs and many, many others. It's as if the universe wants to make sure that you are ready for the success that's coming your way. And this is what we're going to discuss today. So get comfortable, grab your favorite beverage, settle into a cozy spot, and let's get going. Let's enlighten ourselves a little bit more. In life, we often face some tests, challenges that push us to our limits. And it's almost as if there's an entrance exam for reaching the pinnacle of success. Like somebody is testing us. The life itself is testing us. Much like there are tests in universities, they have entrance exams to ensure that only those who are prepared and motivated enough make it through. This is the selection process. It's normal, it's common, and we're all fine with it, right? I remember a time when I felt like I was at the rock bottom. Everything I'd worked for seemed to crumble just overnight. I was broken. I shattered into pieces, into absolute... I was a jelly. I was a mess. I didn't know where to start. I really felt so lost. I didn't know what to do because that life that I've had before, I had so much connection to it. And obviously when you're talking some considerable amount of time, in my case, it was about 20 years that I lost overnight. And really, when something like this happens to you, it just hits you so hard that it's just impossible to prepare for it. It's impossible to get ready, especially when it happens suddenly, when you suddenly lose your job, or when you suddenly get the news about the divorce, or when you suddenly face some even worse and saddest and most horrible things that could happen to us, and you lose someone dear to you in your life, or something else of similar significance happens to you. I remember that at that time, I didn't even understand what kind of question I'm supposed to be asking. I am a very positive person. Like, my personality is very bright. I always tend to smile. I always tend to find positive in things. And I've always been like this since I was very, very little. But at that point, I just felt so empty. I felt that all my knowledge was gone. All my wisdom was gone. All my possessions were gone. All my friends, my family, the people that I loved, the work that I loved, the hobbies that I loved. And in many ways, it was like this. I really did lose a lot. But apart from the actual loss, the material or the spiritual, I still tried to kind of structurize everything that was happening to me, because I realized that if I do not put things in order somehow, and I would continue living in chaos, I would never be able to get out of this. So today I'm sharing with you my personal experience of how I literally got up from my knees, how I got back to work, how I got back to personal life, and how I found strength to overcome all the bad things. But that strength is really in you. It's not anywhere outside of you. And that's a hard truth. And it's hard because it's very difficult to deal with. And I understand. I get it. I'm with you on this one. I understand that you might be going through exactly the same. So our conversation today, really the main purpose is to make you feel connected with me, with other people in our community, to realize and understand that you're not alone. But most importantly, to understand that wherever you are right now, just let me tell you this much, you will get through it. You just don't know it yet, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I promise you. I remember that I personally questioned my path I've questioned my choices, and I've even questioned my worth. But looking back, I now realize that this period of time was really a crucible, some necessary phase that made me stronger, made me more resilient, and actually brought me to where I am today. If I didn't have that phase, if I didn't go through all that crap, I would not be the best version of myself that I now am. You see, in the stories of great people, almost all of them have faced moments when they hit the lowest point before they could actually rise to success. And it's a universal theme. You can read biographies of some great people and you would find exactly this. And the key is to navigate these crises without letting them become fatal to our spirit or to our path. And this is the main purpose of today's conversation, today's discussion. I very much hope that you will listen to the end and you will get as much good for yourself from this conversation as possible. Do you know that in many cultures, the word crisis carries somewhat different connotations? In English, for instance, crisis implies severe negative change. That's what this word means, and that's what we imply when we say it. But in Chinese, the word for crisis is composed of two characters, two separate characters. One of them means danger, and the other means opportunity. And when I read that, and when I let that thought kind of process and sink in my head, I found this perspective incredibly empowering. And when I kept thinking this thought over and over and over and over again, day after day after day, I suddenly felt better because I realized that, yes, my crisis now, it's dangerous. It brought me so much disruption. It brought me so much harm, so much pain. And it's dangerous both for my mental health, my financial health, my physical health, everything. But at the same time, it is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to look at things from a different perspective. It's an opportunity to meet other different people. It's an opportunity to place yourself in a different kind of situation, different kind of environment. It's an opportunity to start something new. It's an opportunity to, first of all, look at yourself from a different perspective. Like, imagine you look in the mirror and every single day you see the same thing. Because it's you, right? You are well aware who this is. And then suddenly you get this urge to change something. Can you relate to that? Like, because everything around you has changed, so many things are no longer the same as they were before. You have literally, you feel it on a physical level. You feel the need, the necessity to change something. That's the opportunity part. And I found this truth to be so empowering for myself. But how do we ensure that hitting rock bottom becomes a trampoline rather than a trapdoor? For many people, this is a big, big, big question. Well, in my experience, first and foremost, what you need to do, you need to make sure that you maintain 3 fundamental freedoms. And this is what I teach in my programs. And this is actually the start of my Kaspari program, the 1-year-long program that I have on my website. If you want, you can check it out at katiekaspari.com/challenges. It's all about getting out of the bad situation that you might find yourself in right here, right now, and moving on, rebuilding your life, rebuilding yourself. It's all about learning, relearning, and unlearning in order to transform. So the first and foremost thing that I teach is you need to maintain 3 fundamental freedoms that are crucial. Now, the first one is the freedom of movement. I want you to keep your options open. Don't bind yourself to situations or agreements that might limit your ability to move, literally and metaphorically. Because I was married to a narcissistic person for over 16 years, I know what I'm talking about. This is very common for people like this, people of such personality, to limit the freedom of movement of their partner. And this is the situation that I almost found myself in, if only I just didn't like my freedom of movement that much that I was not willing to sacrifice it, well, under no circumstance. But anyway, it's important that if you can have a car of your own, make sure you maintain it. Make sure you keep it. If you are into some hobby and it's important for you, it's important for your soul, for your well-being, for your spirit, to keep it going, make sure to keep it going. Even if it becomes far away, find the way to move around between your hobby, your work, not only physically, but as I said, metaphorically as well. Movement is life. Make sure that you maintain the freedom to do what you want, to go where you want, to place yourself in situations that you find appropriate and you find useful for yourself. All right? Well, the second freedom to maintain is freedom of communication. I urge you to surround yourself with people who uplift you. Maintain relationships that are positive and avoid isolating yourself from the community, from the people around you. I know that's probably what you want to do. But here's the thing. I will explain to you the underlying truth why people who find themselves in a critical situation when, as we're now talking in this episode, when life hits rock bottom, the reason why they try to isolate themselves from others is because, first and foremost, they feel shame. They feel shame that this happened to them. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is any reasoning behind this shame at all. This is just a feeling. It's a feeling that you failed. And you don't want anyone to see this. You don't want anyone to actually acknowledge, not even because you're afraid that they might say something wrong about this, but you just don't want anyone to see you like this. And it's understandable. It's very natural. And trust me, it happens to so many people. I see it all the time in working with clients. But that's exactly what you need to avoid doing. People who truly care about you, they wouldn't judge you. People who actually understand what you're going through, they would actually support you. And people who don't care much, well, they'll just leave it as is. Or even if you encounter someone who says something, just, let them be. It's their opinion. It's what they think. But please communicate. If you feel that you cannot communicate to your closest relatives, and that's also a very common case, then find a support group. Find a support community where you can come and express yourself and get the support you need. There are multiple groups online on many social media, and there is also one on my website. So make sure if you are looking for a supportive community of like-minded people, make sure to subscribe to my website. But don't isolate yourself, okay? And finally, the third is freedom of information. This one is very, very important. And yeah, there is more to it than shows on the surface. Stay informed. Stay informed. Whatever the situation is, you need to make sure that you have all the information from all the possible sources. Knowledge is power. especially when you're navigating out of a difficult situation. Knowledge can save you a lot of nerves. Knowledge can save you so many hours of sleep, hours of regret, and it can actually get you to where you want to be much, much faster than if you didn't have it, especially when we're talking about law and anything to do with legal issues that you might encounter. And it doesn't matter who you're dealing with. It can be your employer, it can be your partner, it can be your family, it can be your friends, it can be anyone. It doesn't matter. Make sure that you stay informed. Read a lot. Get as much information as you can on the topic. I know it's tough. I know that right now all you want to do is cry, most probably. But it's crucial that you don't give up and keep digging and digging and digging. Make sure that information-wise, you are not only on the same page with everyone else. You're ahead. You know more than others, especially if they're rivals. I can't stress enough how vital it is to preserve all of those 3 freedoms we've spoken above. There was some time in my personal life when I felt stuck, both physically and emotionally. I didn't actually think that I would ever get out of this until I learned to prioritize these freedoms. And only then I began to see a way forward. Only when I made myself free, because those 3 freedoms, when we say you need to maintain them, you need to make sure you have a chance to preserve them, we impose that there is something that you might be lacking if you don't have them. So as soon as you prioritize getting those freedoms, you will see the way forward. You would, even at that point, you would feel yourself much, much more connected to yourself, because you would understand exactly what you need, what you have and what you don't have, how to get it if you don't have it, and if you need to have it in the first place, or maybe you shouldn't bother. It all comes with time. It doesn't start just there. So those 3 freedoms, if you think about it deeply, and if you think about this episode on a deeper level, later on this week, just whenever you have a minute, just put that thought and let it sink in, like really sink in your mind. You would find yourself in a totally different place to where you've been before this episode. Okay, now we need to discuss another important issue and another important thing that many of us neglect, especially when we find ourselves in hardship. And it's the ability and a skill, I would even say, to listen to ourselves. Like Sigmund Freud once said, freedom is the ability to want what you truly desire. But in a world full of shoulds and musts, it's easy to lose sight of what we genuinely want. And we all know that. But our unconscious mind receives millions and millions of signals from our internal systems, packaging them into intuitive feelings or desires. We don't even know about this, but this process is it's ongoing kind of a backstage. Have you ever felt like thirsty, thirsty that you really want that sip of water? And then suddenly you noticed every image or sound around you related to water. Like literally you're walking around in the street, you're going about your life. And when you have that feeling of thirst, your mind starts creating those images and sounds to support your desire. In science, that's your unconscious mind highlighting you what you really need. Because our unconscious mind is very much tuned onto our emotions, onto our feelings, and it knows what we want. Even sometimes we might not even realize it. Similarly, when we're afraid or anxious of something, we tend to do the same thing. We tend to focus on things that reinforce those feelings. So if you're, afraid of spiders like I am, I'd be looking for those guys everywhere. I would walk in a room and first things first, I would see if there are any spiders around. So when you are anxious about something, the next time you are anxious about something, the next time you worry really deeply about something, just take a minute, relax, take a couple of breaths, and just talk to yourself. Tell yourself that you can shift that focus on something else. It is in your power to right now, right here, change the focus of your thoughts. So the important takeaway here would be that we feel whatever our brain is emphasizing as the most important thing right now, as the center stage. And if we shift that thought, we have a better chance of taking our emotions under control. There was a time back in the days when I was kind of pursuing a goal that, in hindsight, wasn't truly mine. So, metaphorically speaking, I was climbing a mountain that society told me I should be climbing. And it took me years. It actually took me getting to the top of that mountain to realize that I was on the wrong top of the mountain. Can you imagine that? Yeah, I'm talking about the corporate career and the corporate ladder. I really thought at that point that that's what I wanted. And that's what I needed. But only when I started working with my mind, working on self-development and self-discovery, did I realize that many of the truths that I knew were actually not my thoughts. They were planted in me at the very early age by significant people in my life. Not for the wrong reasons, obviously, but it was still not my will. It was something different, something else, something from the outside. But the funny thing is that even if you get to that top, but it's not yours, you don't feel content. You don't feel joy. You don't feel happy about that achievement. You don't even see that as an achievement. Oftentimes, you would actually see it as failure because you've spent so much time, and in many cases, you've wasted so much of your time on something that wasn't worth it, something that you can't even feel happy about. So that's why it's so important, in my opinion, to distinguish between our own desires and those imposed on us by others. And if you think about it, if you give it a minute, if you really ask yourself these questions, I'm sure that you would get some interesting insights from that dialogue with yourself. When you're at a low point, I want you to take the time to reflect on what you truly want. You, not somebody else, not what you've been told by society, by the closed ones, by your parents, your friends. What do you truly want? What are your genuine needs and aspirations? Do you really want money? Do you want health? Do you want a luxury car? Or you'd rather want to be left alone and just live somewhere in the suburban area where it's peace and quiet? Or maybe you want partying every night. Or maybe you want to become a Nobel laureate at something. Or you want to get an Oscar. What do you want? What are your dreams? This kind of self-awareness can actually prevent burnout, and it can guide you toward a much more fulfilling path where you actually see the point in what you're doing. And in my age, now I know that this is one of the most important things that you need to do in life. You need to find your path, and only then can you become at peace with yourself. Now, I want to touch upon the topic of finding your flow, because I think it is also relevant to the problem that we're discussing today. So just in a couple of words, what flow really means. Imagine a swimmer caught in a current. This swimmer is fighting against the flow, and at some point they can find themselves exhausted, totally out of breath. But if they could find the right stream, it can carry them forward with minimum effort and with maximum efficiency. In society, this flow can manifest as being surrounded by successful, happy, and energetic people. I know how it sounds, but I really think that you should be surrounding yourself with positivity. Be it people, be it situations, be it experiences, objects, whatever. But it must have a positive impact on you, and it must be something that would let you look forward to something good, something that would present an example of how things or people would look in your perfect dream world, or where you kind of push yourself. That's flow. I noticed that when I started surrounding myself with people passionate about their lives, positive in their thoughts, just living their lives to the full, people smart, people who read and who have that desire for knowledge. In my own life, I started seeing a lot of change, and the opportunities, they seemed to present themselves more readily to me. The energy of those people, it was contagious, and it quite literally just kept pushing me forward. I was looking at those people and I was getting jealous in a way, and I was yearning for that energy because I myself was lacking it. I myself did not have enough to get me off that bottom. I did not have enough to make me stand strong. So I turned to the energy of those people. But it was my effort and my choice to actually start surrounding myself with people of that nature. So this brings me to another important thing that I want to discuss today, and it's the right environment that you find yourself in. There are various currents or trends in the world. Technological advancements like artificial intelligence, everyone is talking about now. Economic shifts like the rise of cryptocurrencies or cultural movements. But being in the right environment actually means placing yourself where you have the potential for growth. Placing yourself where this growth is already happening, and you becoming a part of that environment, you have a much better choice of this growth happening to you as well. Just to illustrate, I once joined a mastermind group, which was led by one brilliant coach, which later became a good friend of mine. And being part of that community, it really provided valuable knowledge, but not only that, it shifted my mindset. However cliche that might sound, when you feel down, your mindset is down. When you feel down, your mind is all set on the negative stuff, on the things that are wrong, on the things that you can't do, on the things that you don't have. But when you find yourself in a joyful environment, you just start smiling, whether you want it or not. And when you join the community of people and you see how many of them there are out there, you feel connected to that community. And you want to remain part of that community for as long as you can. And you want to do everything that's in your power to make that happen. Because here it is, the light that you want, the energy, the pure energy, and your mind is not a fool. Your heart is not a fool. They want the light and the positive and the happy to be happening to you. When I was in that community, I caught myself thinking that only then I began to think like the successful entrepreneur, because I had all those successful entrepreneurs around me. And I started adopting their strategies and their perspectives. I started using their knowledge to my advantage, to my benefit. And as I did that, I was building on my self-confidence as I went. I was building on my resilience. I was becoming stronger, faster, smarter every single day. So your environment, the one that you place yourself in, is crucially important. The way we think, and that's the truth, the structure of our thoughts, not only the essence, but the structure of our thoughts. It can significantly impact our success in a given field, or even our success generally in life. Immersing yourself in a community of like-minded people helps you absorb these thought patterns organically. And you just get them. You soak them in, soak them up, because you're thirsty for this. You don't have energy to do it yourself, but that energy is in your environment. That's where you can get it from. I want to tell you a story about one absolutely remarkable person that I admire deeply and who is my very, very good friend. And it's a story of his life, his failure, and his success. He faced, at some point in his life, he's much older than me. He's about 20, 25 years older than me. So at some point in his life, he faced unimaginable challenges. It was a very long time ago, in the mid-90s. He lost his business, his entire business, and his business was huge back in the days. And he built it all by himself from scratch. It was his company, it was his idea, it was his kid, if you like. And he lost it all. And shortly after, and obviously it was a challenging time at that point. It was difficult to rebuild something when it was turned to ashes. So shortly after, he suffered a severe spinal injury. He had an accident, and that injury left him in a wheelchair. He was left impaired. And can you just imagine? It all happened like literally with very little time in between. So you're losing the business, which is essentially your life, and then you find yourself in such a difficult physical situation. Many of us, we were all friends. We were all part of the same group. We all thought, and I'll be honest about it, that he would never recover. And we all thought that his career was over because, come on, the impaired man, not young, depressed, obviously, because of all the failures that he's gone through and all the losses that he's gone through. But you know what? He didn't let any of these setbacks define him, and that's his words. He said, I make a choice, an informed choice, to define myself differently. I don't want to define myself as an impaired man. I don't want to define myself as a failed entrepreneur and a failed businessman. And his resilience, his professionalism, his zest for life propelled him quite literally, to rebuild his fortune. And quite some time after, I'd be honest, not straight away, but he created successful businesses, multiple, from scratch. Not the first of those businesses became successful. At first, he failed with some, and it was the trial and error that has taken him to just find out what works, make all the mistakes that he had to make all the choices and sacrifices that he had to sacrifice. Well, his curiosity and his depth in every single project that he was directing, he undertakes. I think this story is a very motivating and inspiring example of how people cope, how people get out of toughest situations, hardest. And hard is always very different for every single one of us. For someone, hard is one thing. For another, hard is another thing. I'm not comparing anyone to anyone, but I'm saying that when you know personally someone who has managed to do something like this, you get the hope, you get the faith that it's possible. And this hope and faith is not only about them. It becomes more about you, because looking at others, you understand that you could be one of them. And then gradually and slowly you start rebuilding yourself, or you start working towards whatever that is that motivates you and that drives you, that is there and you want to reach. Whatever that goal is, that big goal, that big dream. I've had the privilege of working closely with that man that I've spoken about just now, with that friend of mine. And you know what I found? I later, when I was preparing this episode, I was thinking a lot about what was the most vibrant thing that I remember about him and working with him. Well, I'll tell you this, his energy, it was infectious. He embodied the very essence of turning rock bottom into a launching pad. To me, he was the inspiration behind this episode, and he definitely was one of the inspirations behind my own recovery and my own rehab. I believe that with the rapid advancements in medicine, this man will achieve his goal of walking again one day. I very sincerely wish him that, and all others who might find themselves in the same situation. And I think the crucial thing that we people, or anyone who has found themselves in any challenging situation, what we need to do is keep hope for medicine, for advancements, for technology, for people, for humanity, for nature, for God. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to keep hope for and whatever you want to keep faith in, that's fine. Just make sure that it's there. Make sure you preserve it. Never lose faith in yourself, no matter how dire the circumstances. Hold on to the belief that you can overcome them. Seek out positive environments. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, who uplift you, who make you stronger, who make you wish and desire for more. Make sure that change in your mind shows up as an opportunity. View crisis not just as dangers, but as chances to pivot and grow. And remember, even when a situation seems utterly hopeless, it may just be the beginning of a new journey. And this new journey, it might well be much better than the previous one. And with these words, I want to wrap up today's episode and just outline some actionable takeaways that you guys might find useful. We've talked about preserving freedoms, and it's the crucial part. I want you to assess your current situation, wherever you are now, whatever your circumstances are. Try to observe it from the point of view of a third person and try to answer yourself. Are there agreements or relationships maybe limiting your freedom of movement, your freedom of communication, or your freedom of information? If so, if you find any yes answer to any of the above, maybe consider how you can regain control of those freedoms and see how your life changes after that. Second thing, listen to your inner voice. Learn to listen to yourself. It's crucial and important that you actually hear your own thoughts. For this, take time each day to reflect on your true desires. Do some journaling. It can be a powerful tool for this. Just write down what you really want. It doesn't have to be something complex. It doesn't have to be something intangible, something that maybe is too far away, maybe somewhere too far in the future. It can be something right here, right now. It can be something that you thought about today. It can be something that you've moved towards today. Just journal that, and then occasionally from time to time, just go in your notes, look in your notes, and just see which desires appear most often. Number 3, find your flow. And for this, you need to identify the currents in your community or your professional industry and ask yourself this question: how can you align yourself with positive trends and movements in your community or in your industry? What do you need to do to make you work with them? What are the positive tendencies in your community or industry? Are you there? If not, what can you do to get there? Number 4, I want you to surround yourself with the right people. Seek out communities or groups that reflect where you want to be. And these could be anything from professional networks, hobby groups, support groups, mentorship circles, you name it. It doesn't matter. Just surround yourself with the right people, with the right mindset. And of course, number 5, embrace crises as catalysts. Just understand that crisis is not always a bad thing. See crisis as a catalyst. Reframe your mindset to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than insurmountable obstacles, something that you can't change. Many of the things you can't change. Find the way around it. Before we wrap up, if you're interested in exploring how to find your body's innate ability to heal and rejuvenate, you might enjoy my previous episode on preserving your youth. And in that episode, we've been talking about the mechanism of self-healing. So it's a deep dive really into self-care and longevity that complements today's discussion beautifully, I think. It talks about something more physical, something more on a physical level, but it's also very much about getting out of the rut and just finding that energy on a physical level. Well, I think it's been a great episode. I really enjoyed the time with you guys, and I would like to take this opportunity and thank you so much for spending this time with me today in the space of the Unshakable People podcast. If this episode resonated with you, and I sincerely hope it did, please kindly consider subscribing to the podcast wherever you're listening right now. And also, please remember, I also have a video version, so you can catch that visual version on my website at katiekaspari.com/podcast or on my YouTube channel at Katie Kaspari. And to me, I always it's always wonderful to connect face to face. I think it's always wonderful to connect face to face, and I'd really love to see all of you there. And it's also good to put the face to the voice in situations like this. Well, if you want to dive deeper into personal growth and resilience, and these topics are interesting for you, and this is something that you're working on right now, make sure to check out my Kaspari on programs at katiekaspari.com/challenges. I have some really cool transformative experiences designed to help you navigate life challenges and help you really connect with a community of like-minded people. We have a great community there. Everyone is so supportive. All of the programs are very affordable. They are made by me, myself, no artificial intelligence involved, and they were made from my heart. I really put my heart and soul into every single program. But most importantly, it's a structured way to approach your growth, your development, and your self-discovery journey. So let me know if this is something that you like, and definitely consider joining. Join me at your convenience, and let's make this journey together as long as possible. Make sure to check out my other podcasts. You can find all of my social links down in the description below in every episode. So thank you very much for being a significant part of my life. Please consider subscribing to my channel and drop me a comment on what you think of this episode. Did you like it? Was it good? What are the maybe best insights that you can share? What are the insights that you are definitely taking home? I'd also love to hear from you any feedback and suggestions on the topics that you'd like me to cover in future podcasts. I would love to. I always listen to my audience, and I would love to include some of the most commonly asked for themes in the forthcoming episodes. And in the meantime, please stay safe, dream big, and remember, everything will be all right as soon as we people remain people. So with all my life and respect, as I always say, however hard life hits us, it's up to us to make the right choice and fly. Remember, you are not alone on this journey, and it's important. It's one of the most important messages that I share throughout all of my programs and podcasts, and I want you to really, really know that. We are in this together, and I'm here to support you every step of the way. If you need anything, if you want any advice, make sure to just drop me a line. It's very easy, katie@kaspari.co.uk. As simple as that. And once again, please let me know what's the one insight or action that you're going to take from today's episode. I genuinely love to know, so please share it in a comment, send me a message, or just shout it from the rooftops, though perhaps let your neighbors know first. It's up to you. But share it with the world, because everything we talk about on this podcast is very genuine and it's very important. There are so many people out there who need this. And don't forget to invite the young people in your life to join us. The wisdom and the tools that we share here can actually help them navigate life challenges with confidence and grace and make them better people sooner. Many things that I share on this podcast, I always say, I wish I knew it sooner. I wish I was told this when I was younger. But hey, we are a different generation. But now our young ones, they have so much access to information, so much more and broader access to information. So make sure to share this with them. But until next time, keep shining your light. Embrace the journey, and remember, you are unshakable. Take care, my friend, and I'll chat with you soon. Bye for now, and make sure to check other episodes of my podcast wherever you're listening or watching from. All the best, and with all my love, Katie.